Hello, everyone. Bringing you episode 7 of the Better Products podcast. Lumitex joins us, Mark Darby, Vice President of Sales. You get a nice company overview on Lumitex, as well as the key benefits of their flexible light technology. We talk about market drivers that are driving some growth in the use of that technology, and also how design inputs for the technology translate to functional requirements and ultimately validation and test planning, and really the collaboration and cross-collaboration that needs to happen through that process. So pretty exciting stuff on flexible lighting. So without further ado, I bring you Lumitex and episode 7. Thanks. Episode number 7 of the podcast. I can't believe we're already at 7 episodes, but I guess I want to welcome everyone to another episode of the Better Product Solutions podcast, and really excited to have Mark Darby here from Lumitex. And I'll let Mark give his own intro here, but he's the Vice President of Sales at Lumitex. And I'll say that, Tapecon's had a long relationship with Lumitex as a supplier. And so excited to have Mark on the podcast. We're going to talk all things light, and we're going to get into a bunch of different topics. So I'm not going to talk anymore and say, welcome to the podcast, Mark. And if you could just, I guess, start off, maybe tell us about yourself, tell us about Lumitex, or anything you want to share to kick us off. Thanks.
Sounds good. Thank you, Steve. We really appreciate the opportunity to sit with you and do this podcast. Lumitex has been in business and been a good partner with Tapecon for well over 10 years. And we are an innovator of lighting systems. We work closely with in a number of markets, specifically the medical market, the medical device market, transportation market, which would include obviously passenger vehicles, consumer trucks, and other transportation vehicles as well. We've also got a strong presence in a whole number of markets that use HMI devices, such as membrane switches. And then also we've been a very strong player for years in the electronic keyboard market for PCs out of our facility in Asia. We do have a global footprint. We have manufacturing facilities in Strongsville, Ohio, a suburb of Cleveland. And then we also manufacture in our newest facility down in Celaya, Mexico, which is near Querétaro. And then lastly, as I mentioned, we have a facility in Asia. The whole focus of our business is to work closely with our customers to bring innovative lighting solutions. We have a number of standard components and products that we can use, but we also have a significant and very deep engineering organization that can work closely with our customers to help develop and design the best and the right lighting solution for their application.
I feel like every time I check in with you guys, you're growing. And the latest update was the Mexico facility, and then I saw the footprint keeps getting bigger and bigger. So obviously, that's good news. And we run into each other at trade association meetings, and so it's nice to touch base with you guys every now and again. And I see it seems like it keeps expanding too, the role of light. So I'll head into second question I had lined up, which was really, backlighting, I think is probably very misunderstood or not understood at all for brand owners, and how the technology is changing and how you could incorporate lighting into designs. So can you speak to a little bit about how, I guess, if you're a brand owner or an OEM looking to commercialize a new product or make a product enhancement, how flexible light should be something of consideration?
That's always a great question. Many of our customers really go through the decision process of light or no light. But going with light really brings a method or a way for them to enhance their product, really focus on their brand, their product, their image in the marketplace. And that can be done with a whole variety of standard components and lighting technologies that we have, or something more innovative and new, depending on what their requirements are. When you look at branding in that, and you think of some of the markets that we're in, one of the devices that we've been manufacturing for years is a phototherapy device that treats jaundice in babies. So we literally wrap the baby in a light blanket to treat the jaundice. So, and we partner with GE on that, and GE is the company that does the sales and the marketing effort of the product out there. But the light itself becomes the branding of how the baby is being treated. If you look at some of the other markets that we're in, such as the automotive and the transportation market, some ways to really differentiate, and lighting in the automotive market is really taking on a greater significance. But one of the more recent applications that we've had in the past few years is we light the steering wheel on certain vehicles right over the airbag. So if you look and you think of a brand being right there in front of a passenger or in front of the driver when they're driving the vehicle, it's really a great way for marketing to keep their brand right there in front of that customer. So there's a whole number of ways that manufacturers and brand owners can go to market and really differentiate themselves, whether it's with their name or their logo, or just incorporating features into that lighting. For instance, maybe a programmed lighting system that helps the user actually walk through the process to make it a lot easier for them to use their device, and that gives them a little bit more of being the more friendly, ergonomic friendly manufacturer.
I mean, I'm obviously more used to the human machine interface application area that you guys are serving, but looking at your website, it's like you guys are putting light all over the place. The GE example was a good one, but as far as key benefits, I mean, you're a product engineer. You're looking to either pull cost out or put this light in to a unique product. What would you, if you were going to get the short list of the primary key benefits that someone would get out of the technology?
Well, some of the short list would be in the area of, we have the ability to work in very tight spaces. So if you've got a very small device and space is constrained, we have the ability to bring a very thin, flexible lighting system and lighting components to your application. And we work with you to design that. And again, it goes back to the beginning of what are the overall objectives that you're looking to accomplish, the customer that is, with lighting. And getting the lighting engineering team from Lumitex involved up front really can help evaluate what's the best way to do that. So thin, flexible, sometimes the environment that comes into play and where the product is being used can actually require us to remote the light source so that it's not in any hazardous or difficult environments, I guess I would say, so that it's protected and the operation of the product is kept stable.
You mentioned the medical application already, but what markets are really driving a lot of your new business sales in terms of adopting the technology? So whether it's rev changes on existing products or new products, what are the key markets that are driving the technology, and what's really the driver there?
Well, I would say that the key markets that are really driving is the medical market. Lighting and phototherapy is one key area, but also medical devices. And working with, obviously the handheld area and the ergonomic standards. A lot of the medical devices, such as different types of pumps and that, are actually worn by the patient. So understanding how to really work in designing a lighting system that'll be ergonomically friendly, fit, and be able to be used by the consumer, by the patient very easily is very, very critical. We work to make sure that the lighting is very uniform and very even across the product, and more importantly, that it's meeting the standards and requirements that the customer and the manufacturer are really looking to achieve.
I know that for us, you speak medical, we're getting a pretty big influx in wearable inquiries.
Sure.
And so you think of a thin, flexible light on a wearable. I mean, of course, it's going to come. I don't have any applications right now that someone's asking us for light on a wearable, but I have to imagine it's going to come at some point, especially when you guys are using the light for so many different things. But it's a new technology, right? I mean, or I shouldn't say it's not new for you, but others might not think of light as something that they could so easily put into a compact, portable, either wearable application or some of these, I'll say discrete applications, lighter weight type applications. So I think one of the challenges is going to be how people know how to specify this stuff into their design, because it's a component, right? I mean, you're not selling a finished product that someone's going to go to market with. You're a component supplier, right?
Correct. So the most important thing is the first question we always ask: what is our customer, in this case, a Tapecon, trying to achieve with the lighting? What is the overall objective? Where's the light need to be? What's the environment? What's the application in general that we're working with you on? And more importantly, then understanding the key characteristics up front, from a brightness, a uniformity, and a color. What are the overall standards that your customer is looking to achieve with that light? And so we have a very specific process that we go through where we ask a whole number of questions up front so we can at least get a good understanding of what you're trying to achieve. So we can pretty quickly define, is it something that we can do with some of our more standard components, or is it something that's going to be a little bit more on the leading edge? And we may need to go outside of the current toolbox and look at something that's a little bit more innovative and design focused.
Yeah, and I think it's important too to understand that you might not be selling, I guess for the listeners who are listening, it might not be something that you would sell direct to them. You know, the channel is kind of an interesting point here where you've got tiers of supply, right? So in some cases you might sell your product direct. In other cases though, you know, you'd sell obviously to someone like us because we're current, you know, we're obviously a current customer. And then we have our brand owner customers. So it's really kind of bringing everyone to the table. You can get your lines crossed pretty quickly and have the left hand not talking to the right if there's not a strong collaboration between all those tiers of supply into that final end user, right?
That's very true. In some of the actual phototherapy devices, we typically work with the end user, as I mentioned on the one with General Electric. But in general, we work as a tier 2 or tier 3 in the supply chain. And membrane switch manufacturers, such as yourself, are key customers of ours. And it really is a collaborative partnership that we have with someone like yourself and your organization. You're the eyes and ears with your customer, and we're here to support and provide the technical data and background from a lighting perspective and really be sort of an extension of your engineering department. That's where we really fit best. And we really, I think, bring a tremendous amount of knowledge on lighting that can help you and your customer design the best product.
So let's just talk more about, I guess, I'll say the gathering of end user requirements and translating those user requirements or market requirements into an engineering specification. Can you speak more about, I guess, how that process can flow from an opportunity coming in, types of questions that you're asking to really kind of peel back the onion of what they're really getting at? And sometimes people don't even know the questions that they should be asking themselves. So there's a lot of teaching kind of back and forth at the same time, sure. Right?
Yeah, there is. So as I mentioned a little bit ago, we always ask, what is the overall objective that you're trying to achieve? And obviously there's going to be mechanical or physical characteristics and specs that we're going to have to meet, electrical characteristics and specs potentially if they want us to do the electrical design as well, environmental characteristics, obviously the optical characteristics, and then packaging. You know, it's one that always gets left at the end, but then you got to figure out what am I shipping, how big is it, and how am I going to get it there intact so that you can use it effectively, and then your customer gets it intact at their facility. But if you really start at the beginning, you know, understanding the space constraints, the depth, the length, the width, how much room do we have to work with? You know, sometimes we've only got 1 millimeter or so in total depth to work with, and we need to come up with a whole light guide system that'll be able to fit in that small space of an area. And you can do it, but it's always better if you can do that up front, knowing what the physical characteristics are. Secondly, when you get into the electrical, you know, there's the light guide portion, but then it really comes down to who's going to handle the electronics and the designing of the electronics. Sometimes our customers wish for us to do that. Sometimes they prefer to do that. But the most important thing is whatever that design and who's doing the design, we need to understand what the design is that they're going to use so that we can obviously do our in-house validation testing, and then obviously our process testing that we do when we're manufacturing the product to ensure that it's meeting the specifications. From an optical standpoint, you're always going to be looking at, you know, obviously the brightness, the uniformity, the color, and really designing the lighting system, whether it's a stranded fiber product from us or a co-extruded clad flat fiber that we use. Again, all those characteristics become part of the product specification, which is so critical from an upfront design standpoint, so we can guarantee that we're delivering you a product that meets your specs time and time again.
Yeah, it's always a common theme with these types of projects where the more collaboration up in the beginning, it just always makes for a more successful outcome, you know?
Oh, it does.
So when you get those design, if you kind of, you know, follow this process through, we have design inputs, they translate the functional requirements. At some point, you know, someone wants a prototype, and then we got to get into verification, validation, test. And you know, I know you guys have that. You should probably speak a little bit about that cut to size product, because when you think about, okay, let's demonstrate at least some type of minimum viable type product or some type of initial demonstrator of, hey, is this going to work in that early stage of the project? Can you just, you know, I guess give a little quick commercial on like that, the cut to size that sample kit. I forget what you call it, but I know
No, it is
I know
cut.
you can cut it and it's pretty cool. So can you speak a little bit to that, Mark?
Yeah, it is. It's a unique product, and it really is meant to help really define, is it feasible to put some lighting into a product very quickly. And it really gives an engineer, without having to invest a significant amount of money up front in engineering in that, to design a product, by using an off-the-shelf kit that comes with what we call our clad flat fiber product. It's available in either a 0.3 or a 0.45 millimeter thick film that has got a uniform etch pattern across it. And we provide you a printed circuit board with side-firing LEDs already mounted. You just peel off the tape, and literally within 5 minutes, you have a backlit lighting component that you can put behind your membrane switch panel and get a sense of what the lighting is going to look like on that part. And more importantly, it gives your customer a sense of what their product will look like with some lighting. So instead of investing maybe thousands of dollars to design a product hoping it's going to work, you can at least get a very good sense of what the light will look like on your product literally within minutes. And those products that we provide, the cut to size kit, are available off the shelf.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, I mean, just to get that in the hands of people right off the bat is great. And then on the validation side, I mean, obviously, it's got to work in the end use environment. Can you speak to the testing in terms of the type of the testing on the technology and the material, in order to really be able to verify and validate a product? Because, people might question robustness, or they might question whether or not it's actually going to work in the intended environment. Can you speak to some of the testing that you guys support on the side?
Sure. So whenever we work with our customers and we get the product spec and the product drawing all designed and defined up front, we're going to go through and we're going to do what we would consider a fair first article inspection run, and provide those products to you so that you can evaluate them for fit, form, and function. And we recommend that very highly to do the 10-part trial run, just to give you a sense of what it's going to look like and to make sure it meets all of your requirements. Once you've signed off on that, then we are ready to go to production. And there's a whole number of different tests, and depending on what the requirements are, obviously there may be some specific measurements we need to take. But again, once we've gone through and done all the upfront testing, we know what tools are needed to guarantee that you're going to get that product made the right way. As far as other in-process testing, we'll do some light-up testing during the manufacturing process to make sure that the circuit itself is working. And then lastly, once we get into the final product, it's in the quality assurance, we will do a light-up test of it, make sure that it's meeting the outputs on a CCD camera, where you'll take a look at the brightness, the uniformity, and the color. Now, there's a whole variety of other tests that can be done in the design phase up front. Some of those are done in partnership with yourself or with your customer. There may be an exterior sunlight exposure requirement in the packaging that, it may require a sun rack testing down in Florida or California. So that would be something where we could work to provide the products in the design phase so that your customer could go and do that additional testing. There may be some cleaning type. If you look at a medical device, there may be some requirements requiring various types of chemicals that clean the electronic device, and you want to make sure that nothing's going to be corrosive, and if it were to get inside the unit, and that the unit is sealed properly by the manufacturer, that you can hold up in that. So,
by the way, I like the acronym FA, the FAIR acronym on the first article inspection report. That's nifty. But I mean, you definitely have to get everyone involved, right? So in that situation of that final sign off of all these specifications, it's really yourself. Could be our engineer that's assigned to the project, and then our customer or end user, and everyone kind of signing off on that. I have to imagine that you're teaching along the way, where some of those specifications might be completely foreign to the brand owner in terms of how to measure what it is they're trying to do. Like, they know it wants to hit a certain level of brightness, but you're going to put that into an actual specification and then validate with an actual test method. So those are test methods that you guys already have kind of in your library.
That is correct. So we will look, again, we will set up what we call a CCD camera to make sure that we're going to get the correct reading based on what we agreed to and what your customer is looking for. And again, that comes from the design process. So we'll take a look at a variety of different specs, whatever those are that the customer needs, whether it be for the lighting output or if it's some other specific, maybe a drop test or something like that, or a packaging test that needs to be done. So there's a whole variety of tests that we would need to go through, and we can draw upon the experience that we have, as well as the numerous different specs that we have from previous products and development and design work.
No, that's great, Mark. I mean, that's all I had on my questions written down. But I mean, the future, I'm not going to use the pun, the future is bright, but obviously, with the advent of a lot of the, cost reduction initiatives on product, people trying to pull materials and costs out of material stacks, and then the medical wearables and, home-based healthcare, all these things that are coming out, it's got to be a pretty exciting time for you guys in terms of looking at some growth areas for you.
Yeah, it is. In the markets that we're in, we're seeing some very strong growth in the medical market, especially in phototherapy. But in the infusion pump area, that's another area that's growing very strongly, in certain segments, I guess I should say, and an area that we do have a strong presence. We also, if you look at the automotive industry, there's a tremendous amount of growth in electronics on the interior of the vehicle. I mean, we've done automotive interior components, on the Prindles, the park reverse neutral gear shift, for years and years. But today, now you're looking at, as I said earlier, steering wheels being lit, to a variety of, you look at the sunroofs. It used to be that they would accent them a little bit. Now they're looking to put real thin laser lights all the way around the perimeter of a sunroof or on the roof racks and that. So there's a number of unique things that they're looking for. And then in the COVID world today, everybody is looking at ways to manage and disinfect products, whether it be in a vehicle, whether it be in a hospital room where you're using an infusion pump, and obviously that's an area where infection is a key area. So safety, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, is an important area that's being focused on more and more by candidly all the markets that we're looking at.
Yeah, I was thinking about lightweighting just in the automotive designs of just the amount of weight that's behind a traditional, lighting design, and moving that to just a thin, flexible light. I mean, think of just meeting the fuel economy standards that have to happen. So that's good stuff. Well, I mean, I guess for those who are listening, obviously, you can go to Lumitex website and learn all about that stuff. But that's great, Mark. I really appreciate it. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I want to thank you for being on the podcast in episode number 7, all things light, and appreciate your time coming on the podcast. And I guess that's it. I just want to say thanks. Any final parting words on your Mark before we wrap it up?
No, I like all things light, and we'll be there to help you whenever you need. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, everyone.
Yep.
The Better Products Podcast is about educating product teams about new materials and new technologies, all in the custom material converting and printed electronic space to help them design and build better products. So in this podcast, I'm hoping to give wide-ranging conversations with various people throughout the industry and just bring a lot of good content to the table. So if you're interested in learning more about the industry, materials, processes, how to improve products if you're on a product team, or just general know-how of what the heck is going on in this industry, then subscribe to the podcast and get ready for some more really good episodes as I bring in some great guests. Thanks.